love listening to it, but I'm absolutely disgusted at your thoughts on Middlesbrough. Anyway, love the podcast. Thank you, Lintons, for the iTunes review. I asked you to leave some at the end of last week's show, and you have done. That's the one we got. So thank you. Welcome back, listeners. It is For the Fans, the show that is a great podcast, and he loves listening to it. Do not forget that. I am joined this week by two members of the show. Yeah, Kino, welcome.
If you love listening to it as well, guys, leave your own review. See if you
For
can
the Fans
top
show
Linton.
week or For the Fans Football
If you're
Weekly,
disgusted by our thoughts on your team, which is likely.
If you're offended this week, do remember to leave that iTunes review at the end of the show. And I'm also joined by Proudy. Hi, Chris.
Hello. I'm looking forward to a review soon about me when I say something stupid. Yeah, when I say something stupid, it's inevitably going to happen. But...
Just your performance, I imagine. Anyway, gentlemen, as ever, we've got an email. It's becoming a regular thing.
We like to be held accountable.
We've had a few this week. Dear all at For the Fans, I think that even includes you, Proudy.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
Dear all at For the Fans, I really enjoy listening to the show. I will say now for listeners, it's not just going to be emails of how great we are this week. It carries on. It is pretty much the highlight of my week. That goes against what I've just said. And I particularly enjoy all of your mistakes, Jackson Kinos especially, in brackets. However, and I speak for all For the Fans followers, I need to stress something. My, like most people's favourite part of the show is Ben's excellent feature. But recently, the feature has been put off by all at For the Fans. And when they're on, where is it? It's not there. They are never as exciting as they used to be. So we need to... Anyway, just a little bit more. So I speak for all For the Fans followers when I say hashtag bring back the feature and make sure it's in full form. We all love it, especially when there's a good feature.
To be
From
fair,
Sam Gardner. Thanks, Sam.
On the feature, thanks, Sam. I will say, we tend to, if we've got a really busy week, and obviously, we record weeknights, and we've got so much football to talk about here. We will. That's I would say, probably 80% of the time, that's the reason why we don't put one in if there isn't one there.
Yeah.
Sometimes Ben can't be asked. Sometimes he loses
slow down.
His trivia cards. But most of the time,
the trivia cards are some of the best features ever done on this show. I'll tell you the word for it. Anyway, Sam, good news. There is a feature this week. Let me hand you over to Proudy.
Yeah, you just couldn't be bothered this week. You just gave it to me again, didn't you? So.
All right. I've done at least 100 features.
Yeah, but how many have I appeared in? I think I've actually participated in less than I've actually done now.
You've killed. It's not worth you coming along and killing the feature, because you've come along, you've obliterated the feature each and every week.
He's
so I've decided
annihilated the competition as well.
I've taken Kino out of the firing line of Proudy this week, and I've handed you responsibilities of providing a feature. Usually, you just get internationals. This week, you're on the ball. Go on then.
Yeah, I just wanted an ego boost. I think you've given it to me now, so...
Yeah.
Have you seen your Twitter account, Proudy?
Yeah, every day.
Go on.
So, last weekend, Sunderland went down, the first team to be relegated from the Premier League after losing at home to Bournemouth. So this week's feature is based around relegated teams from the Premier League. Now, I have a list of 37 teams who have been relegated from the Premier League since its formation in 1992.
I've got to say, boys, I feel like you've both got an advantage here. Kino especially has got an advantage over me.
Yeah, I've got 1 point in the bag.
Good.
But I've made this a bit more interesting because normally I would say it would be a head-to-head and you would just name off teams and then I would give you 2 chances. So if you get one wrong, then you basically lose out. And then if you get another one wrong, then the other person wins the feature. But I've put extra points on the line because there's some teams who've been relegated more than once. So if you pick a team who've been relegated more than once, I will ask you how many times have they been relegated. And if you get that right, you get an extra point. So I've made it a bit more interesting.
See, this is Proudy's. He's new to feature curating, Ben, and he's brought a new sort of enthusiasm to.
He won't be putting this effort in 6 weeks' time. Let me tell you, there'll be no way.
Yeah.
All right, Proudy. I'm impressed with this so far.
Yeah. I'll have to do one at some point.
All right. Okay. Well, if you lose this, Kino, you can do it next week.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I mean, I can't really decide who goes first. I've got a coin here, and
My word.
I mean,
a coin that we can't see.
I'll do it alphabetically. Ben, would you like to pick heads or tails? I mean, no one will ever guess. I mean,
this
is an audio feature.
Great audio feature. Proudy's brought the coin toss, the well-known visual feature. All right, I'll go tails.
Okay, tails. I'm going to flip the coin. And it's heads, so Kino is going to go first.
Who knows if it was or not, listeners? Who knows if it was or not? Got no idea. Go on then.
So, Kino, you can name any team, and then I'll tell you if it's correct or not. But I mean, we can already guess who your first team's going to be. So,
well, I will say Sunderland have been down twice, so I'll have Sunderland.
Well, you got Sunderland right, but they haven't actually been down twice.
3 times.
Well,
I mean, do I get 1 point?
I'm going to give you this. It's 4 times if you include the recent relegation.
Oh yeah, of course. They've just been relegated as well.
So
okay, yeah.
I should have said at the time of the season, but
Okay.
Yeah. Ben.
I'll go with. Is it just Premier League, right?
It's just Premier League.
Okay, I'll go with Portsmouth.
That is correct. I mean, I feel like that was a shot at but that's fine.
I will say once.
Yeah, that's no. Sorry, I should have explained. If it's more than once, then I'll ask you. Like if it's once, then it's just one.
Okay, yeah, fine.
I don't have a point now. I wouldn't
Right.
Okay, go on then.
Yeah, Keno.
Okay, over to Keno.
I believe one Aston Villa FC have been relegated.
Yes, that is
the
correct.
Premier League.
Yeah.
How many times? Just for memory.
Only the once.
When was that?
Recently.
Never forget. All right, I will go with Norwich.
Yep. And how many times would you say?
I will say 4 times.
It's actually 3. 3 times they've been relegated. Yeah, I think it was 04, 05.
Yeah.
Were they relegated the year before the Prem started?
No, they got relegated 94, 95 as well, I think. And most recently was it 2015, 16? I can't remember.
Yes.
So
under Houghton. But then they came back out with Alex Neil and then they were relegated again.
Yeah.
Hang on, Praddy.
So it's
That's
4 times.
mate.
Wait, no, sorry, no. Did they
Oh
come up with
my
Alex Neil?
God.
I've fact checked this, but I don't know about Norwich. I just put down the number. So
They were relegated with Neil Adams, Nigel Worthington in 95-94 and recently with Alex Neil. Give me the extra point.
I've said 4 times. That's 3, isn't it?
I mean, I've got Alex Neil, Neil Adams, Nigel Worthington, 94-95. Don't remember who the manager was.
Okay, I'll give you the point then.
I mean, good.
I mean, I've messed up the feature already, so it's going well,
It's
isn't
me
it?
next week.
Keno, what are you doing next week? Anyway, back over to Keno. What is this?
Right, so he went down. So I think Newcastle have been relegated, I think, twice from the Premier League. Only twice.
That is correct. They have been relegated twice, so extra point there.
All right. Are we doing this until we've run out of teams, or we just can't think of any more?
Well, I'm going to give you 2 chances. So if you get one
until
wrong,
we're on, of course. Yeah,
No, 2 lives.
I will go with Swindon Town.
That is correct. That is a good answer as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I should have saved that really.
Blackburn.
That is correct. And how many times, Keno?
I think probably only once.
It can't be, otherwise I wouldn't have asked you. That's a giveaway.
Oh, twice then. Not many. It's only twice, I think.
I'll give him that. It was twice. But I mean,
unbelievable. Of course it is, because we all know it's. Oh, dear. All right, never mind. I thought it was once, but you'd asked the question, so we knew it wasn't once, didn't we? Oh, right. It's back to me.
Yes, that is.
I will say West Bromwich Albion.
And how many times, Ben?
I'll go for twice.
3 times actually. They've been relegated.
They were a proper yo-yo club for a few
I couldn't
years.
think how many times they've been up and down.
Speaking of yo-yo clubs, also in the region, Wolves have been down, I think, 3 times.
They've actually been down twice.
It could be.
Wow.
So yeah. Because what was it? They survived that one season on like that last was it against Blackburn? Yeah, and then they got relegated the season after. So
yes, you're right.
Yeah.
And they'd been
Kenny
up
Miller.
in like that was sort of 2004, 5, wasn't it? Around then, that was when they came up the first time.
Yeah.
Then went down and then came back up again. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
so just the one.
I'll say Ipswich Town.
And how many times, Ben?
It's tricky this one. I'll say twice.
That's correct.
Thank
2
you.
times. I think in the 90s they were relegated, and then
early
2001,
90s.
02. So
And then the year after the UEFA Cup, they got to the UEFA Cup, they went down again. Yeah.
So I'm going to go like a Ben Swindon one. Coventry have been in the Premier League, haven't they?
That's
and
not as
been
good
down.
as Swindon. That's not as good as Swindon.
It's not as good as Swindon.
I'll
but
give you one as good
Coventry.
as Swindon next, just to prove my point.
Okay, Coventry.
Coventry is correct. They've only been relegated once though, in
not
2000,
been back up.
2001. So yeah.
Now I'm going to gamble, try and out Keno.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Oldham Athletic.
Yep. Correct answer.
Were they in the original? Were they in the first year?
Yeah, I think so.
They were, weren't they? Yeah. Leeds.
Oh, good answer.
That is a good answer. Yeah, Leeds have been relegated just the once, 2003-04.
Southampton.
That is another good answer.
Did you like that one, Brownie?
Yeah, I love
'Cause
that
you're
one.
from-
Yeah, I was waiting for someone to say that.
Have you said Portsmouth, Ben? You have already.
I
haven't
would
you?
like to say, I can't confer with contestants.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Bolton.
Oh,
How many times, Keno?
I reckon only the once because they came up
he
and
would have
then
asked
stayed
you.
for ages.
I'll
and
help you
went,
out
"Oh,
there. He wouldn't have asked you, Keno.
Yeah, every
yeah,
time I
that's-
ask you, it's more than once. Yeah,
I've not noticed that yet.
Yeah.
I haven't clicked on that. So twice.
it was actually 3 times they've been
Yes!
Oh, really?
relegated.
Yeah, very early on, I think.
Yeah,
Like
they
96.
were another yo-yo club in the 90s. So,
Yeah. Oh, I've got a good
Yeah.
one.
West Ham United,
How many times, Ben?
twice.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Charlton Athletic, Proudy.
How many times, Keno?
Twice.
That is correct. I mean, this is going to get a bit harder, like after you go through some of these
Yeah, I
things.
know. We're reaching this. Yeah, we're sort of 10 minutes in. We're reaching that point.
Burnley,
How many times, Ben?
twice.
Correct.
Birmingham City.
How many times, Keno?
He's got so many Midlands ones he can go for.
I think 3 times.
That is the correct answer. Yes, 3
Yeah.
times. So
Yeah.
I think they had a yo-yo spell as well. Actually, I think a
They
lot
did,
of Midlands
yeah.
teams have a yo-yo
I
spell.
enjoyed
Aston
that.
Villa haven't
I
had
enjoyed-
theirs yet, but I mean, soon
no.
come.
Bradford City.
That is a correct answer. 1 point.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay.
Um.
I'm saving one for
Oh.
later.
So I'm getting a bit. Oh, Derby.
Of course.
Correct answer. 1 point.
I'm having to rack my brains a bit now.
Yeah, it's becoming a difficult game. Do you know how many we've got left, by the way?
You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
How many we have not said?
I think 14 you have.
14,
left.
that's a lot,
Yeah.
in it. Blimey, Charlie.
And there's some big teams in there still, actually.
Blackpool.
Correct. Great answer there.
Thank you.
That one season they had.
Keno, come on now. My age is helping at this point.
Middlesbrough have already been down.
Yep. And how many times?
A good answer.
Twice. Not that many, I don't think. Maybe twice.
It was actually 3 times.
Oh, wow.
They got relegated twice in the 90s, and then
okay.
yeah, 2009 I think was the, and probably this season as well. So
Well, yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
Leicester.
how many
Yeah,
times,
good.
Ben?
Twice.
It's actually 3 times.
Is it 3
Yeah,
times?
3
Wow,
times.
that surprises me. All right, there we are, though. I'll take that one.
Oh. Sheffield. Sheffield United.
That is the correct answer.
Well,
Yeah,
I was-
1 point for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Keno. Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah. That's another correct answer. Both teams have been only relegated once from the Premier League. So
It's getting
Yeah.
difficult now, Keno. What if we just get them all?
Yeah, we
This would be
both win.
unprecedented.
We
It's,
win.
a,
Yeah.
it's a joint win. I've got one. Fulham. They went down
Good.
recently.
yes, that's 1 point there.
Yeah.
Watford.
How many times, Ben?
Twice.
That is the correct answer.
Thank you.
We're doing well here, Ben. I
We
think
are.
we're
It's a bit too well.
I say that.
This is the longest feature of all time. I hope you're enjoying this.
Yeah,
Sam.
so yeah, we've had a feature drought. QPR, we've had a feature
Yeah.
drought.
How
and
many-
we're
how many
filling it with
times?
a big one. Twice.
QPR's a great answer. Blimey.
It's actually 3 times they've been relegated.
Yes, because they went down a long time
I should
ago.
say now,
Yeah.
Keno, I'm going to try and put some pressure on you. I've got 3 ready to go.
Oh,
I'm going to kick
I
it off.
haven't.
Going to kick it off with.
I'm doing it when I come to it, Ben, honestly.
I'm going to kick it off with Crystal Palace.
How many times, Ben?
Twice again. I'll say one in the 90s, one in the 2000s.
They've actually been relegated 4 times. from the
4
Premier League.
times?
Yeah.
That was- That was
Yeah.
points on offer there. Never mind.
Um,
4, wow.
I know.
Cardiff.
That
That's
was
a
one
great
of mine.
answer. Yep. That's
Horrible
1 point there for
boy.
Keno.
That's annoying.
Uh,
Luckily, I still have Hull.
Yep. Now, how many times, though, Ben?
Twice, Christopher.
Correct answer.
Thank you.
Extra point there.
Appreciate that.
um,
Oh, I've got
How
2
have-
more.
yeah, I have a feeling that there's a retro one which I could go for and maybe take one of my lives because I do have a safe one.
Go on.
I'll go with the retro one and take a risk. Have Barnsley been in the Premier
No,
League?
that was the one.
That is a great
right?
answer. Yeah,
Yes.
1 point for Kino.
Okay.
I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
boys, you've only got 5 more teams to guess.
I've
here.
got 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kino, I hope you've got 2 or 2 more.
I think we've got the same too, Ben.
All right, one of mine is Nottingham Forest.
Oh, we don't.
How
Okay,
many
that's good.
times?
Twice. That's probably more than that, but I'll say twice.
3 times they've
3
been
times.
relegated.
Yeah, too late, never mind.
They've been up and down. Right,
it's
I have
fine.
2. One is Reading.
Okay, I don't have that one.
Yeah.
Oh,
How many times, Kino?
my word, Kino.
I don't really care at this point. Twice.
Yeah, that's an extra point.
We're going to win the feature. All right.
Hang on.
Have you got another one?
Well, you tell me, and I'll say.
All right, Wigan.
No!
Oh, no,
I have
Kino,
that.
no.
That is correct answer, 1 point. 2
Oh,
more
it's-
left.
2 left.
more.
It's a shootout. It's a shootout.
It's League One teams, though, isn't it?
I don't know, probably.
Oh, I'm sure there aren't any in the Championship left. I've been thinking. Oh,
I've now gone through my Premier League and Championship ones,
I
Kino.
think there's bound to be someone shouting at their phone or computer at the answer.
it's probably their team, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's you anyway. There's no pressure on me.
Oh, I think I've gone, Ben. I can't.
I'm going back into my 90s mind.
Have you got one?
No, but I'm going to keep thinking. I'm trying to think about teams that have been relegated when there was like 4 teams
You've said
relegated.
Bradford, haven't you? You've
Would like to say.
Bradford's
can't
been
confirm.
Bradford's been
What
said.
the fuck are you doing?
No. Well, no, because you're both working together now, aren't you? So
Well, sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
It's become that. In a feature first.
I'm going to take a guess. I'm going to take a guess. You said Swindon. How about Millwall?
No.
no,
No.
that's 1 life gone.
Okay.
That's one life
Well,
gone.
I can afford a life here.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to go with Luton.
That is incorrect as well.
No,
Yeah.
I thought they were.
No.
Oh,
We got so close.
we've still got 2 more.
Oh.
Oh no! I don't know if this counts.
I think you're thinking the same thing as me.
I don't know if it counts.
Wimbledon have been in the Premier League.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's what I
they've
just
been
thought of.
relegated.
Yes,
There's one
that-
answer left.
No.
Were they relegated then, Wimbledon?
Wimbledon
Yeah.
were
Oh,
relegated.
No,
yeah.
so there's 1 to go, and it's on me.
It's on you, Ben.
Wait, didn't you say Wimbledon though, Ben?
No, Kino just had it there.
No, I had Wimbledon there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh my
Change it.
word! It's one of like 3.
We've named 36 out of
Yeah.
It's one of like
37
3 here.
teams.
You know what? If you get this answer, you'll be kicking yourselves how you didn't get this earlier.
Oh, don't say that.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you could have said.
Yeah.
Because now it doesn't seem like it could. Right? Can I think out loud?
You can think out loud, yeah.
Okay, so ones I've had going through my mind inexplicably are like Grimsby. That I don't. This is not an answer.
Yeah. I know.
Like seems like Crew as well. But I don't think they've been in the top
No,
flight.
they've.
I mean, I can't remember Huddersfield being in the top flight. But that doesn't
No.
mean they won.
Oh.
I just can't remember.
When you come on an
I
answer,
think
tell
I'm-
me final answer.
I will do.
Yeah.
Flipping
Then
head. There's so many teams.
I think I have one in my mind that we've not said.
Oh no!
Shall I take it?
No, it's not. No, it's
No,
just,
I know
Kino,
it's
I'm-
not.
if I'm going to lose the feature, Kino, I'm going to lose admirably. I'm going to say Huddersfield in a bit of a. No, I know it's not. I've not said final.
Is that your
answer.
final answer?
No,
No.
come on, Ben.
Okay.
Come
No.
on.
All right. Oh, I know it's not now though. I can't think who it is.
We've been here 20 minutes. Ben.
Final answer: Huddersfield. It's not.
That is incorrect.
No.
It's down to
Right.
Kino. He's got one chance here.
It's sudden death penalties. We're at Wembley.
Yeah.
I have one name in my mind. I'm going to have a swing at it. Preston North End.
No.
That is incorrect as well.
Oh.
Stop.
You will kick yourselves when I tell you this.
Oh,
Do you want me to
No.
tell you the answer?
Is it Liverpool?
Stoke.
Is it Liverpool?
No.
Oh, is it Stoke?
No. It is Manchester City.
oh,
Twice.
God.
They've been relegated twice from the Premier League. In the 90, I think it was 95, 96
Oh, give
and
that in the
2000, 2001.
In the show.
They were hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
Oh,
When you were going through it, I was thinking, oh, they'll get this. Man City will be on, off there. And you just
Oh,
didn't.
no.
You don't
get it.
think about it, though, do
Yeah.
you?
Oldham
You don't-
Athletic came to me first.
Yeah.
Oh,
So no one gets the points to that. Man City, twice as well, they've been relegated, so that would be an extra point for someone.
But
what were the scores,
What
though,
are the final
Brady?
scores?
I mean, I'll have to tot them up because,
Okay. I can't believe what we've just done.
No.
We've gone through the Football League and we've missed out 2-time Premier League champions.
Listeners, you wanted a feature. You have got a feature.
That is the biggest feature of all time.
Yeah.
I think we've
36 answers correct in a feature. I tell you what, Jack would have been out after round 7, so I'll take that.
Oh no!
I can't believe it. I mean, actually, I'll give you a little bit of credit to Jack. We got an email from Michael, who also I think may well have left a review on iTunes. Now I think of it. He's just like to say, I'd like to start the email by thanking you lot for brilliant content you provide us with regularly. I'm an avid listener, and I always find it funny when you receive abuse from people emailing in. Thank you, Michael.
This email, you'd do the same.
This email, however, a complimentary email regarding Jack's predictions for the North London derby. You not only got the score correct, but also predicted Arsenal's failing 3 at the back attempt. Keep the good work, lads. Michael, thank you, Michael. So we'll talk about that in a moment. That's just a preview. I proudly figured out the results.
Preview of what we're talking
about.
about.
Well done, Jack. He's not here, but we'll give him some props.
Proudy?
Chris?
Still working out. I mean,
What do you mean?
This is very because you got all these extra
this long?
points, so I'm trying to make sure I get this right.
All right, we've got another email. Hello, Dr. Benji and friends. Thank you for that. I love that. That's the new name of the show, I think, actually.
This is basically a phoned, isn't
Hello,
it?
Dr. Benji and friends. This email isn't necessarily your typical complaints as seen in the past few weeks. It's merely to clarify Jack's claims about Czech having performed above Lloris this year. Having used Squawker's comparison matrix to compare key goalkeeping stats correct to the 30th of April, all stats provided are of the Premier League performances, based on Premier League performances. He's given me like the whole rundown of minutes played and clean sheets. Lloris, by the way, 14 cleats to Czech's 9, and Lloris has conceded 20, whereas Czech's conceded 33.
I can't believe that Jack didn't do that in the middle of the show.
Yeah. Things like distribution accuracy and pass completion. Lloris is 75% on both of those. Czech 63 for distribution, 59 for passing, and then defensive errors. Czech's only had 2 this year, whereas Lloris has had 6. So there's a few.
Proudy, should we just go and get something to eat? And
No, I've got the scores now. I've got the scores.
Just quickly, I do apologise if there have been any irregularities in the statistics, but blame Squawker, not me. Yeah. Yours sincerely, Ben. So that's you now, Ben. Proudy, the results of the feature.
Well, seeing as Keno went first, I'll reveal his score first. So Keno got 23, and Ben got 24. So Ben wins the feature this week by 1 point.
Yes. I feel like we did a good job.
I feel like we would shake hands or maybe even hug at the end of it as well to say well done.
Yeah.
We've been through a war there.
Yeah.
We've come out nearly on top.
That's the one feature that I've inevitably lost that I don't feel bad at.
Yeah, in fact, Keno, let's share the points.
So
it was such a group effort.
Thank you.
Right there, folks. Too much of a loving. Jack's got away and it's become a little bit different from normal. Let's talk about the Premier League then. We're going to structure the show slightly differently, of course. These results happened a while ago. So what we're going to do is really talk about the talking points that have come about from this game rather than what happened in it. It was, of course, the final North London derby. What's the new Spurs ground going to be? It's going to be called New White Hart Lane.
They've not given it a name yet, have they?
Has it not got a name?
So it's going to be sponsored soon.
All we know
I
as
hope
then
it
is White Hart Lane. It's the last derby, though, between Spurs and Arsenal on that particular pitch at White Hart Lane. Of course, it was 2-0 to Spurs. And we predicted sort of going into it. Do you remember our predictions, by the way, of what we thought the score would be?
No, I can't remember what I said.
I think I said Arsenal would win.
Spurs.
I think I said Arsenal would win,
I had a Spurs win with Jack, definite.
I thought Arsenal would follow up their FA Cup success.
I think so did a lot of people thought that as well, but they were just sort of back to being Arsenal again. Well,
Jack predicted they would play the 3 at the back, and it didn't. To me, there was a lot of question marks from Arsenal fans why Rob Holding didn't play. I'd put in a decent few performances for Arsenal in the lead up to this game, and it was confusing to why he didn't play. And of course, Gabriel ends up making a pretty horrendous, not a horrendous challenge, but not a particularly good challenge. It was a week again that had been diving was sort of the chat, wasn't it? Once again, we'll probably talk about that in a minute, actually. But as far as this game goes, because of the Chelsea result, of course, that happened over the weekend with them beating Everton so convincingly, the title race for Spurs looks like the challenge is probably over at this point. You look at the fixtures remaining for both. It looks now, Keno, like it's a step too far for this Tottenham team.
I said before, if Spurs go on to win every game between now and the end of the year, if they continue this run, it will become the second longest winning run in Premier League history. And it just is amazing to me that it almost sort of says about how good Chelsea are. It's almost the ultimate compliment to Chelsea that Tottenham are on this amazing run right now. They're playing so well. They're winning games in all different ways, and yet they are not top or going to win the Premier League title. And I think it'll be a really odd sort of scenario for Spurs come the end of the season, because what does Pochettino say to those players? It could, will they be gutted by the fact that they've played so well and missed out? They've got their highest ever points total by a country mile, or do you think that they can almost sort of, in the way that I just lost the feature, then be quite proud with what they've done, and sort of take that into next year? I think it's a really important summer for Spurs coming up, because they've been they've been fantastic this year, and some of those players have moved to the next level, and whether they can continue that momentum again from like what they did last year to this year and on again, maybe into Europe and then in Wembley or something, we'll see.
Yeah, I guess on the reverse of that, Proudy, from an Arsenal perspective, they are now with games in hand, sure, but they're currently on 60 points. If they don't win their games in hand, say they just stay on what they're at, they're 5 points behind Manchester United in fifth. They're 6 points behind Manchester City in fourth. The chance of them getting in the top four right now is no longer in their hands. Is this the sort of season Arsenal fans will look back on, and it will be ended up maybe quite a defining season, as this is the season where finally Arsenal, frankly, just aren't good enough?
I think you have to sort of like take into account, like there's been a lot of teams recently as well, like the change that they've undertaken. I always seem to reference Man United when they changed the old guard and then they struggled, and they haven't got back to that same period where they were with Ferguson. And you sort of can see similarities with Arsenal, how they're going to finish. This could be their lowest finish under Arsene Wenger. I don't think he's ever finished like outside the top four, has he? Ever?
I couldn't be 100% sure on the first couple of years, so I'm not going to sit here and say I know, but you're right. It's unprecedented. Like, from what we've seen for a long time, we've not seen an Arsenal side be this far off the pace. They don't look like a top four team this year. That's it for me. It's like we've gone through years where Arsenal have scraped a top four finish, but there's always been that sort of shining light within that team that they've always been capable. Do you know what I mean? Of being a top four team. This year, we've not seen, like, occasionally Sanchez maybe, but we've not seen a spark from Arsenal. We've not seen them really look like a side that, with a few, I think, okay, this is what I'm getting at. So in previous seasons, right, we always sit at the end of the season and go, if Arsenal just change one or two things, they could be contenders in the title, right? We did it last year. I distinctly remember us doing it last year, and I'm sure people have done it in the last 10 years. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I've done it as well. I always say that. Yeah.
But this season, that is not, for me, that's not true. Arsenal don't need a couple of changes. They need a lot of changes. They are being a change in the boardroom, in the managerial position, and on the pitch. And that's not been the case for a while. And that's quite a big leap to step down from being very close to being a contender to now not even being really looking like contenders for a top four finish.
Before the game,
change.
Before the game, there was sort of going around online and stuff, that BBC thing, which is like, choose your Arsenal/Spurs combined team.
Yeah, we talked about this briefly last week. But
we did this a lot. Yeah, we mentioned it on the show. How there was only one player that would, and that was obviously Sanchez, who would get into that Spurs team from Arsenal, and I think that just does kind of show the work that needs to be done on that squad in general. And even during the game itself, it was there was not really one Arsenal player, even Sanchez, that came out of this game really for me with any credit. Maybe other than Cech, who made quite a few decent saves, kept them in the game. But Sanchez himself, who in games where Arsenal have been poor, he has sort of been able to carry them through at times this year. Even he was not on the pace at all. And coming out of that game this week, there's been a lot of talk about Mesut Ozil and his sort of contract situation. And obviously those two players... That
decision has to happen, for Ozil especially, that decision has to happen this summer.
Well, Arsene Wenger in his press conference today hinted that, that deal may be happening, that Ozil will be getting...
It has to happen now. They can't leave it any longer. His contract runs out at the end of next year. It has to be decided this summer whether he stays or goes.
And this isn't judging by the contribution he had during that game. People might be like, "Oh, what do we care?" He's been very poor this year. I think he's had about 9 assists compared to 19 or 20 this time last year.
Yeah.
But the important thing about this Ozil contract deal is that he has always said, when asked about his contract, that he will stay at Arsenal if Wenger stays. And I think giving a bit of clue as to what Ozil might be doing with his contract, I think almost could confirm that what, you know, people have begun to suggest in the kind of last month, that Wenger will be staying another year, at least another year. Which has obviously a very large sort of ramifications for Arsenal fans.
Well, we talk about the rebuild, Proudy. How does a team like Arsenal, outside of the Champions League, that's not familiar for them, and even when they're in the Champions League, let's not forget they're not signing the best players that come to the Premier League. Sure, they've got examples in Sanchez and Ozil where they've signed really good players, but you look about the elite players that play in the Premier League. They move to City, they move to Manchester United, they move to Chelsea. How are Arsenal going to attract this new array of players that they're going to need to get themselves out of the situation? Because the current crop, Proudy, do not look good enough.
Yeah, I think it starts with the change of manager, because if, you know, Arsene Wenger hasn't really attracted the sort of players that he would have when he started at Arsenal. I mean, you look at the players that he did sign, like Patrick Vieira, Thierry Henry, and now you look at the players that he signs now, like Granit Xhaka, who actually was very impressive in the Bundesliga, and it seems like Wenger doesn't know how to use him, because Xhaka in most games this season has just looked like what do you call it? A lost boy. I'll just say that he's just sort of like a lost boy in the park. I mean, it's just like
he doesn't improve players, Arsene Wenger.
He just
not
toes,
recently,
doesn't it?
Not like
toes.
It's flippant to say Arsene Wenger doesn't improve players. You look at the names Proudy mentioned: Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira. They weren't complete footballers at that point.
And even as recently as someone like Jack Wilshere, you could argue he improved and made it.
But it's the players like Oxlade-Chamberlain and Aaron Ramsey and Theo Walcott that you've seen progression from, but natural progression that you should be seeing from young players that are playing Premier League football every single week. We've not seen those players become stars of the Arsenal team. We've seen them become bit parts of the Arsenal team.
And it was you know, seeing both teams side by side on Sunday, that really put into that, I think, for me, into perspective. You look at the players that were playing for that Spurs team. People like Danny Rose, for instance, who was on loan at Sunderland 3 years ago. Harry Kane, who had been on several loan spells and then suddenly burst through the ranks at Spurs. Kyle Walker, Eric Dyer. I could go on and on. You know, obviously Dele Alli and even Christian Eriksen to a degree, who kind of joined Spurs under Villas-Boas and then has come on, I think, to a new level under Pochettino. Every one of those players that started on Sunday, you know, have got better under Pochettino. You certainly can't say the same thing about, I'd say, someone like Mesut Ozil at Arsenal, or even maybe Alexis Sanchez, but you'd argue he's kind of stayed at the same sort of high level. Putting those players in sort of, you know, that kind of sharp comparison really sort of just showed the difference. And I think, you know, you asked Proudy, what do Arsenal need to do to maybe rebuild the kind of players that they could attract, right? I'm not really sure that they need to be looking at signing players in the same way that City or United are going to do this summer, for instance. I think they need to take a look at their neighbours and see how they can sort of maybe bring players from, you know, from out the kind of super clubs, not from super clubs of Europe, and try and develop players more to get back into that.
There's an argument that there's a strong argument to say that is what they're doing at the moment. That's what they've been doing for the last 10 years, just not as well. Yeah. Like, every Spurs player is having the best moment of their career. Can you name a single player in the Spurs team that is having a worse time than they've had somewhere else?
Yeah.
For me, every Spurs player right now is peaking. And it's whether they can sustain that and become, like we talk about Dele Alli and Harry Kane, in 5 years' time, could they ever be at a world-class level? Well, if they continue this peak and then it just becomes how good they are, then that's great. But you wouldn't say that about Arsenal's players. You wouldn't say any of them are playing as well as they've ever played. You go through the team. Is Koscielny playing at his best? Probably not. Petr Cech certainly isn't. Mesut Ozil's a shadow of the player we saw at Real Madrid that's eventually got this move to the Premier League. Alexis Sanchez was shining in the Barcelona team. Of course, for some of these players, it's easier to shine when you're playing with Messi and Xavi and Iniesta or Cristiano Ronaldo and whoever else. But Arsene Wenger and Arsenal have signed these players to be that same superstar. And we've not seen that out of these players this season. And we've seen teams in the past be carried by one or two. Now, Arsenal aren't being carried by this one or two. In fact, they've now slipped out of a top four position. And I don't think it's unreasonable to say they won't finish in the top four this year. There's too much to do.
I guess the most sort of extreme example on the reverse end is Chelsea, who, you know, played at the weekend. And they, as well as Spurs, have... although you can maybe say that Hazard has been individually fantastic for them this year, they are a team. And there are no every one of those players Conte has improved in the same way that Pochettino has, and it just sort of puts into contrast, I think, with Arsenal. We should talk about Chelsea though instead.
We'll move on to Chelsea. Chelsea had a really you look at Chelsea's result again. We're not going to talk too much about the game because it was a while ago. Everyone saw the result and whatnot. But Chelsea's season as a whole has been very impressive. I'm just looking through the games in which they've lost this season. Of course, Spurs have only lost 2 games so far. 3 games so far this season. Spurs lost away at Chelsea, away at Manchester United, and away at Liverpool, and then had numerous draws in there. Whereas Chelsea, very similarly in fact, lost away at Manchester United, lost away at Spurs, lost away at Arsenal, and lost at home to Liverpool, as well as the defeat recently to Crystal Palace, of course. But in the middle of all this, Chelsea went on and I'll just quickly...
Big Sam in the middle of that group there,
I'll tell it off in my head. I think it was 13 or 14 matches. I can't quite work it out completely. I think it was 13. 13 matches where they won every single game. And that's the difference, that Spurs are coming on to the end of that. It's almost like Spurs are finishing the season a little bit too late. I think we spoke about it, actually, Kino, last week, that if there was another 5 games in this season, then you would probably say Spurs will catch Chelsea. But Chelsea had this sort of miraculous run of a 13-game win streak from October the 1st to the end of January. 31st of December it finished. Sorry, the 4th of January it finished against Spurs, ironically enough. And that's been the story of Chelsea's season, is their consistency throughout important periods of the season. So that includes December, where Chelsea played 6 games and won all 6. They had 4 clean sheets and scored like a countless amount of goals as well.
Yeah.
Is this one of the most impressive title wins? I'll ask Pardy first. Is this one of the most impressive title wins we've seen? If Chelsea do go on to win it, which I think most people probably think they will do, is it up there?
In my opinion, it is. I think they're not as entertaining, I think, as the first Mourinho team. I think the first Mourinho team got like 95 points.
Yeah, I think they had like 11 games where they won by 4 goals or something like that.
They were an entertaining team, and then I think like the Manchester United team, like just off the millennium as well, that was really entertaining. I think they blasted the league as well. But this Chelsea team, I think
it's the context with this Chelsea team after what happened last year, isn't it?
I think it's also, seeing this sort of revitalized team as well, like a different formation, like a completely alien formation in the Premier League. I don't think we've ever seen 3-4-3 ever played. Probably,
this level.
Not this much, not this consistent.
Yeah, and it's the fact that Conte has managed to come into a league which he wouldn't know too much about, I would assume, like, because Serie A and the Premier League are fairly different, and he was dominating the Serie A, but they weren't playing difficult teams like week in, week out. Like, you get a handful. But in the Premier League, like, every game's difficult.
It's notoriously hard to sort of... I think that's a really good point, actually. I haven't really thought about that before. Conte has managed to kind of bend the Premier League to his philosophy. And
he's making other managers play that style.
That's what I mean. Yeah, he not only is he encouraged half the league now to give a 3 at the back a go, but we've seen managers before, and even this season, Guardiola's tried to come with his own ideas, and he struggled to implement that. And we've seen this down the years, where managers come with their own philosophy to the Premier League and think that they can sort of implement it, and failed. But Conte has not only just managed to make it work, he has won the league. I think it's safe to say he's won the Premier League doing this. And that, I think, again, I hadn't really kind of thought about it in this sort of context, but I think with that in mind, it does make it one of the most impressive we've seen, at least in, this side, and maybe in this decade at least, probably.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned, Proudy, Mourinho's first season at Chelsea. You forget how good the season was. It kind of got... Chelsea's title win happened quite early on in that season. I think that may well have been the season where I can't think who they beat. Was it the Bolton year? Where they beat
won it at Bolton. The last day Lampard scored,
I don't think it wasn't the last day, but...
Oh, yeah, but it was,
regardless, it may well have been that season. The reason I bring this up is it's the season that, of course, West Brom survived on the final day, and it could have been any from West Brom, Palace, Norwich and Southampton, and that was kind of the final day thing. It was also the season that Everton finished 4th and Liverpool won the Champions League. But Chelsea's year that year, and this is amazing that this isn't talked about more, really. Everyone talks about the Arsenal Invincibles even. They only lost 1 game. They won 29, drew 8, lost 1, and had 95 points. Now, I think if Chelsea win every single game from now until the end of the season, they'll be on 99 points. 89 points, maybe. Can someone just look at that for me, really quickly? They've got 3 games to go. If they got, I'll look it up because Paddy's too slow. 4 games to go, yes. So they could end up on 90. If they win every game now, they could end up on 93. So that'll be again. That's not bad, is it? 12 points they can still get. They're on 81 currently. If they win every single game from now to the end of the season, which doesn't look impossible, then we could see a 93-point season out of Chelsea, which would, again, for me, puts it up there as one of the most impressive ones to go alongside everything you said about Conte and the way he's integrated his style. Anyone else want to say anything on that?
I was going to say, it's quite striking as well, the difference. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, how Guardiola came into the Premier League and he couldn't adapt as quickly because his team played really well to start. And Conte struggled initially because he was trying to play 4 at the back, and I think it was the Liverpool defeat at home and then the Arsenal defeat away, which basically made him change the system, and he completely changed it. He was like, "No, I'm going to play this how I want to play, not how I think the Premier League, should be played." Yeah. Something basically, he was following the philosophy of the Premier League rather than his own philosophy. And as Aquino said, he's brought his own philosophy in, and now everyone's copying him instead.
It's almost been like a mirror image, hasn't it? Chelsea and Man City.
And that's what's amazing, I think, about this Chelsea season, is that he's come into a league where he, as I said, he wouldn't know too well, and he's adapted a system to basically trounce the Premier. Well, I wouldn't say trounce the Premier League, but he's going to win the Premier League with a system that is alien to us, and it's amazing to see.
It's going to be really interesting to see how teams playing against Chelsea for an entire season next year. Chelsea's transfers are going to be really, really interesting to see where Conte thinks. Because, again, they're probably going to win the league, right? So it's where then Conte thinks, where can we still strengthen? Because if you'd have said to me at the start of the season, Victor Moses will be a key part of Chelsea's title win next year, I'd have gone, sorry, the same Victor Moses that was at Wigan and failed at Liverpool. Like, that Victor Moses. I wonder where he'll think we can do more. I wonder if Diego Costa is his ideal striker. I wonder,
there's talk. There's been more China rumours on Costa today.
Really?
I forget the name of the Chinese club, but
is it Guangzhou?
Possibly, but there was reports that a £72 million deal is sort of in the works.
If you're Chelsea and Conte, you look at that and go, yeah, go on then, we'll have any striker in the world based on that.
Well, that's the thing. Shifting this to like an Everton perspective from that, which, like
Romelu,
obviously. Well, that would, if Costa does go to China or elsewhere, people would say, that would be a natural kind of replacement. He was very poor at the weekend, as were, the whole of Everton. And while part of me sort of sympathises for Lukaku, I mean, a lot of people talk about his goal-scoring record against the top 6 teams. It's very poor historically, and it has been this year, and sort of demonstrated by his performance on Saturday. But I feel like when you're playing in teams that Lukaku has played in, obviously Everton are a good team, but don't have the quality that a Chelsea or a United or Spurs do, and don't set up the amount of chances that they create either. And also, teams like West Brom in the past when he's been on loan, it's difficult for him to get those kinds of chances to actually have a chance to score goals against the best teams. So I think people read into that a little bit much. And he would obviously be the natural replacement for Costa. I think it would be a gamble for Chelsea, I think, in a way, to sort of go back to him.
Yeah. Everton can demand more than most teams in this scenario as well, because it's quite obvious Lukaku wants to go. So, and it will be, especially if Costa leaves, Chelsea will be looking at Lukaku thinking, you're the guy that suits how we're going to play next year.
I would think it would be upwards of, he's got
60?
2 years left on his something like
60,
upwards of
around
50.
60, you could see it, couldn't you?
Which is bonkers. But yeah,
here's a little bit. Shall we away from the deep Chelsea tactic talk? Dear ForTheFans show, another email on the topic of Spurs and Chelsea. So it kind of makes sense. I'm a long-term fan of the podcast, and I'm very much looking forward to the end of season show where you look back on the predictions you made at the beginning of the season.
So am I.
Yeah,
so am I.
However, in the most recent show, I was disappointed to hear a factual mistake from none other than Jack. We're at the space. Not here to answer the critics, but I'll give him a chance next week. Only moments after laughing at Keno's Tottenham and the Champions League mistakes, Jack then said the FA Cup semi-final, especially, and in quotation marks, especially Chelsea versus Spurs, you don't expect there to be 6 goals. This is where long-term Chelsea fan Tom had a bit of an issue. As a long-term Chelsea fan, I knew this was not the case. Since April 2012, Chelsea and Tottenham have played each other 13 times. In these games, the following is true. Only 1 0-0 draw, only 2 games where one side did not score more than 2 goals, or 2 goals or more, 5 games where one side has scored 4 or more, 9 games where 3 or more goals have been scored, including 3, sorry, I don't know what that means, Tom, I'm sorry, including 3, excluding the FA Cup final with 6 goals in, which even had more goals than 4, to make his point. However...
So can I take Jack's right of reply on this one?
Yeah, I'll come to you then in a moment. However, oh dear, it was not Jack's comment that hurt me the most. I think that's probably fair enough, was the reply from Ben. This was the surprise, as I always thought Ben was the one who was a stickler for the truth. Oh dear. Do not worry, this has not deterred me from the podcast as I continue to listen to the whole thing. I just thought it was important that all members of the podcast,
guys,
especially Jack and Ben, knew the true facts for the future integrity of For The Fans.
Listen, guys.
Much love, Tom. It also says, P.S. Keep Proudy on. I love him. He never gets any facts wrong.
We love Proudy too. I'm saying this with a massive grin on my face because I've got no criticism there. I think Jack was referring to FA Cup semi-finals. Now, maybe we can check the tape.
I don't like this. I don't know if you want. I disagree fundamentally with that.
But I remember him saying that. To be fair,
all right, I think that's probably fair enough, Kino.
Yeah.
Yeah. drbenji@gmail.com for any future emails you might have. And there we are.
We need a For The Fans email, don't we, really? It can't just be going to you.
Worth saying, by the way, and he never gets any facts wrong, Norwich, how many times were they relegated from the Premier League? I'll bring that back up. Right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk very briefly about the Champions League results, as well as the upcoming Premier League fixtures this weekend. Paddy, do you want to plug your channel, mate? Or...
No, not this week. I'm doing pretty well in terms of growth, so that's right.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you for the shout out, Ben. Yeah.
Me?
Yeah, you're just like, I love this series.
My favourite thing about that...
Did you?
Well, fairly.
I'm going to have a look.
Yeah. My favourite thing about that shout out was that Ben called you a friend, Proudy, in quotation marks. My so-called friend, Christopher Proud.
Give with one hand, take with the other.
He likes to think he's a friend.
Yeah, my acquaintance, Christopher Proud. Okay, folks, welcome back. I don't know if we had anything between. We might not have done. Either or, though.
Ben tried to get me to lead us into this section.
Yeah, because I'm now going to say, Kino, it was the Champions League this week, midweek, and you like the Champions League, so tell us about it. There was Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Monaco, and Juventus.
I feel like we could talk some, maybe next season, do a bit more European football, Ben, because I'm quite, the BT Sports subscription gets a lot of use in the Kino.
You're a connoisseur, Kino. I consider you one of those. We'll start off, though, with Madrid, Atletico. Yeah. Ronaldo's still... pretty good. For me, he's not the star of the show, but to get a hat-trick in a Champions League semi-final, he will be taking all the plaudits.
Well, this is the thing about Ronaldo and the sort of this Madrid team is that he, as you say, I agree with you. I don't think he is the star of the show in anything else but his goals. Like, he sort of manages to have moved in kind of the last maybe 18 months to sort of 2 years. He's moved to sort of the edge of this team, I think, a bit in terms of what he contributes throughout the whole game. And, a lot has been said about his sort of transformation into like a number 9. But in this game, it was like, it was that if you were trying to add a kind of game to an article you were writing about Ronaldo's transformation, this would be, the perfect case study because other than his hat-trick, which obviously he scored a hat-trick, so, he won the game for Madrid.
He's got a ridiculous amount of hat-tricks, by the way. I tweeted it out the other day.
47, is it?
Is it now 47? Now 47? Yeah, it must be 46.
42 or 46.
Whatever it is. It's over 40. It doesn't matter what the next number is. It's over 40. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
This game was just the perfect example of how he sort of transformed. And coupled with... I've kind of written this in the running order, coupled with a strangely sort of muted, kind of jaded performance from Atletico, he was just there at the right time in the same way that he was against Bayern in the round before. And it was dominant from Madrid. There was no moment really watching this that I felt like Atletico could even have an away goal in them, let alone sort of have a period of pressure to try and win the game.
Yeah, it wasn't a weak Atletico side either. It was they were as close to full strength as they normally are. It just didn't come off for them. The thing with Ronaldo, and I do want to talk about Ronaldo because he's not a player we actually, when you think about it, we don't really talk about Ronaldo on this show ever. So let's discuss one of the best players to ever have played the game. You mentioned that this is kind of the game that epitomises the new Ronaldo. For me, and it's easy to say this in retrospect now, that the time in which we saw Ronaldo become this version of Ronaldo was the European Championships last year, where for Portugal, for a lot of those games in the Euros, he did very little, but then always ended up scoring one of the more important goals. Of course, the injury in the final was kind of talking point. But actually, Ronaldo's role within the Portuguese side,
Adair took over in that moment.
Indeed, I mean, a clinical striker by anyone's. I mean, how many goals has he got this season? Let's quickly check that out. I mean, after what was a moment for him, he's got.
It's like how the Portuguese Hal Robson Carney.
He's obviously been prolific at Lille this season with 5 goals in 25 league games. So well done to Eder. He's really set the league alight.
Ronaldo's got 25 hat tricks.
Ronaldo scored 13 for Portugal last year. And on that, by the way, Cristiano Ronaldo now has 10 goals in the Champions League this year in 11 games, 20 and 26 in the league, 35 and 41 for those who are interested. But no, that's when we first saw this sort of reincarnation of Ronaldo. And I think a lot of people thought we would see this, Proudy, but how much longer do you think Cristiano Ronaldo can go on for playing this type of role at the highest level? He's 32 now. How long can this go on for?
I think, well, I mean, most footballers would say 4 to 5, but for someone like him, with his physique, I mean, I could see him playing until he's 40.
That'd be
maybe
brilliant.
even longer than that. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with that, honestly. 40, maybe not at the kind of top end of the Champions League Madrid level. It would be interesting to see whether he'd be prepared to maybe
take one step.
Possibly, yes, somewhere like that. If he'd be prepared to take a step down, maybe after another 2 or 3 years at Madrid, I think. But I agree with Proudy. It's almost him and Lionel Messi are sort of treading territory that we've never even considered in footballing terms ever before. And so it's really difficult to predict sort of what they might go on to do. You know, you said Ronaldo's goal record this year. Messi's got about 10 more than that, I think, this season. He's well into the 40s.
Do you want the amazing Cristiano Ronaldo stat of the day, though? It's not his free kicks. Cristiano Ronaldo. Remember when he was in the Premier League, right? Seemingly not that long ago. His next goal for Real Madrid will be his 400th goal.
Apparently, he scored 3 more goals.
It's crazy.
Apparently, he scored 3 more Champions League goals than Atletico Madrid have done altogether.
Yes,
that is utterly ridiculous for a player of like Ronaldo's stature. For Ronaldo, how many?
For a player,
I was going to say, what, 10 years in the Champions League? So he's got at least 10 goals a season.
Where do we? Well, he's got 100. He's got 104.
Yeah,
in the Champions League. Where do we? Okay, actually, I say that some of those may well be Europa League. I'm not 100% sure.
I don't think he's been in that.
I don't think he's ever played in Europa League.
I don't. Poor the Europa League. Poor Cristiano to not have enjoyed those Thursday evenings. But I say we never talk about Ronaldo. I feel like we could take a little moment then to just ask where we think he ranks. And I know it's sort of the age-old, who's better at Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi. That's not really what I'm asking. I'm asking where Cristiano Ronaldo ranks compared to everybody else, not just Lionel Messi. Like, is he in the top 3 of all time? Like the conversation is like Pele, Maradona, Messi, and then one or 2 others.
Yeah,
like is Ronaldo in that?
Certainly in the top 5. I think there are different kind of criteria to consider. Really, I mean, I would always put Messi ahead of Ronaldo for what he can do, but I think Ronaldo, judging him purely from like a sort of objective standpoint, he is almost, if you're kind of looking at purely what can you achieve in the game of football from like, you know, from just the human body and like from a sort of personal perspective.
He's a robot footballer.
And how you can best maximise every ounce of talent that you have to be the best player that you can possibly be. He is sort of almost the kind of ultimate in that regard. And I think you combine that and look at, obviously, you know, his record. And I think, he's got to be in that sort of top 5, that conversation.
Where do you rank Cristiano, Brody?
I'd say top 5. Yeah, I agree with Kino. Can I just
ask who's in your top 5, boys? I'm just interested to see who you've got in there.
Pele, Maradona, obviously for me.
Pele, Maradona, Messi, and Ronaldo. But
Messi.
Who's your 5th? That's tricky, isn't
it? For me,
so he's top 4 then.
It's Zinedine Zidane for me. I thought he was the complete midfielder.
Zidane's really high for me as well. Just the reason I ask is because I put Messi at number 1 out of this group we're discussing now, and I put Ronaldo at number 2. I think we'll look back in. It's
difficult to say when we never grew up watching Pele or Maradona.
It is difficult to say, but then it's sort of, I feel like it's widely accepted that football is like the challenges within football now are so much greater, and it's so much more difficult to be a star now, maybe, than it was then.
I think so.
Like, I don't. Again, that might be a bit of a malicious thing to say to some people, but I do think we're living in a world now where if it was this easy, there'd be more players doing it, and we're seeing two players absolutely dominate football for the last 10 years, and it's not been they've had 3 good years. For 10 years, these two have dominated. So I think they're both up there. I think Ronaldo is a close second. I think Messi's just got the edge in terms of...
Never quite matched the sort of pure sort of artistry and genius, I think, of Messi.
But in the same way that Messi didn't have to do what Ronaldo's done, because Messi sort of had all that talent, whereas Ronaldo, as you say, is kind of... It's nurture over nature, isn't it, with Ronaldo? Like, he's become this ridiculously good footballer, and is year in, year out, changing now the way he plays. And it's going to be interesting to see... I started this by saying let's not compare Messi and Ronaldo, but it'll be interesting to see how Messi does change the way he plays.
Well,
he's not always
going
to have that pace, is he? He's not always going to be electric.
He already has, I think, to a degree, and has in the last sort of 2 or 3 years, where obviously when he first started and burst on the scene and first really hit those heights, you know, we're talking about those two being at the top of the game for a decade. He was that sort of, originally he was kind of a flying right winger, and then obviously Pep Guardiola turned him into that sort of false nine, the nucleus of the team and main goal scorer. And then in the last sort of 3 years, he sort of moved to more of a creative role, and so he can utilise that kind of the freakish talent that he has in a different way. But we say that, and you've definitely seen a difference in his play, but his goal-scoring record has pretty much been, like, this season, 47 goals, I think he has, 46 in all competitions, something like that. It is still crazy, and he's still hitting those
He's having a better year this year than he did last year, I think. Messi.
Yeah.
But, okay, we're talking about Ronaldo. Hat-trick in a Champions League semi-final against Atletico. Atletico did
He
look
wasn't the star of the show, though.
Well, no, I want to talk about... We've had a little bit of a Ronaldo love-in. Modric and Kroos, is there a better partnership in football at the moment, Proudy? Anywhere... I don't care if it's centre-backs, central midfield, strike partnership. Is there a better partnership, a better duo in football right now?
No, they're sort of like the Xavi and Iniesta, like now.
I love that.
Yeah. So I think it's like, how Xavi and Iniesta were like transformed Barcelona's tiki-taka style under Guardiola. I think Modric and Kroos are two superb central midfielders who complement each other well. But I think, the thing is, like, I think they complement each other so well is because of Casemiro behind them. Because if Casemiro is behind them as like an anchor man, then it allows Modric and Kroos to basically just make as many passes as they want. Because I remember there was a season under Benitez where I think he tried to fit like 3 attacking midfielders into midfield. So he had Modric, Kroos, and then Isco, and that meant that Modric and Kroos weren't as like creative because they couldn't be.
So it's interesting. It's interesting that Zidane has kind of... I mean, we were having this conversation while we were watching this game, Ben. I think that the sort of general consensus about Real Madrid and also Barcelona this year is that they've not been quite as sort of dominant. Like, they are not as good as maybe they once have been. They've been winning a lot of games, particularly in the league, with sort of moments of individual quality. And particularly Barcelona have relied on the front three for pretty much their wins because, as their team has aged and fallen apart. And that's happened to the same extent, not maybe quite as much with Real Madrid, but it will also happen as well as players like Marcelo, Ronaldo, and Sergio Ramos get older. Zidane has almost kind of toned back the kind of Galactico mentality, particularly in that midfield, as Proudy said. And he's put Casemiro in there, who wasn't very fancied at the Bernabeu. I think he's probably been there 3 years, and until this season really had not held down any kind of place in the starting 11, and that has just freed up Modric and Kroos. I mean, Modric for me, out of those 3, I'd probably argue he's the best sort of central midfielder holding playmaker in the world. Yeah. At the moment,
I would go along with that.
And you could probably even say, it just in general play, in like a Ballon d'Or shortlist right now, he probably deserves to be maybe just behind Messi and Ronaldo, purely for his influence on the team.
He won't be there, but he should be.
He definitely won't be. But for this Real Madrid team right now, the influence that he has on every game they play in is just incredible. Certainly higher, I think, in terms of constant than maybe you could say someone like Ronaldo, who does pop up with the goals, but is less involved in the overall sort of style of play. And in this game in particular, against a pretty strong midfield as well. You know, they had Atletico sort of moving onto them a little bit. You know, there was Gabi in there, incredibly experienced, Sarniguez, and Koke sort of coming off the flank as he likes to do. That's a tough test, and they've sort of locked horns many times over the last few years, and it's always been tight. But in this game, I felt like that midfield three were head and shoulders above Atletico, and that was what made it such a one-sided affair, really, in the end.
Yeah, Tony Kroos is a liquid footballer. He's just so nice to watch, like, to the point where him and Modric have this similar sort of ability to play extraordinarily well to the point you just don't notice that they're playing so well. It's almost like they're playing with, you do those drills like when you play football, and one player's like wearing a bib and he plays for both teams. And so you almost don't expect he's there. Tony Kroos has that kind of vibe about him where you don't really notice him, but like he's so. Again, we talk about Ronaldo being like this sort of this robot footballer. Tony Kroos in a similar was one of the first products of Germany going, we need to sort out how we do football. And Tony Kroos was one of the first sort of group of players that came through at the ages of sort of 17, 18. He's the same age as me. So, and you remember that at so he would have been 12.
How does that make you feel, Ben?
He's a little older than me. I've still got time. I've still got sort of 9 months to be the Real Madrid first team. But there was the 2002 World Cup. This is why I bring it up. And Germany decided we're going to change everything we do now, and we're going to focus it around bringing the best young talent through. Now, Tony Kroos would have been 12 at that point, and you can see that the way he was developed at Bayern Munich, and now he's gone on to be a superstar for Real Madrid, that similarly to Ronaldo, while he's got a lot of natural talent, and you can just see from the way he plays the game, he plays it, as I say, he's a liquid footballer, that he's been produced to play like this, to be this good, and he's getting the maximum out of the body that he's been given. It's getting very deep, this podcast. But yeah, he's another example of that in a completely different role to Ronaldo. Not the same sort of player at all, but in terms of performance, gives you sort of not just like a 7 out of 10, gives you an 8.5 out of 10 in every game.
Few stats on this game. Modric and Kroos had 95% pass completion this game each.
Pretty good. Against Atletico Madrid, that is.
Dominated.
So, Praddy, do you want to weigh in on this game, or should we move over to the Monaco-Juve game?
I just love Tony Kroos.
What do we think will happen in the second leg?
You just love Tony Kroos?
Yeah, I just love him. No, he's in my I feel I was going to say Zidane is a complete midfielder. I think Kroos isn't going to be Zidane's level.
How Kroos
but
is
he's the closest thing to.
It's Kroos.
Yeah, I got that a bit late, but yeah.
Not there, but he's Kroos.
Yeah. Kroos. But I generally think he's so enjoyable to watch, Tony Kroos, and I think he has so much of his game. Like, he's not just a passer. I mean, he can shoot as well, and some of the goals I think he's scored for Real Madrid. And I think there's one sort of style of shot that he does, which
it's
I still can't
five goals he's got for Madrid.
Yeah, but I mean the goals he scored for Madrid. Like I remember there was one where it got pulled to the edge of the box, and he side foot passed it into the bottom corner. And
was that against Arsenal?
No, I remember that was for Bayern Munich. I remember he scored for Bayern Munich against Arsenal. Yeah. But I remember for Real Madrid, he passed it into the corner. I was thinking, he just loves to pass it. Even when he shoots, he just loves to pass it. So
it's worth noting, actually, with Tony Kroos, the slightly older he's got. He's only 27. He's not old, but he scored 13 goals in 4 seasons for Bayern in the Bundesliga. He's got 25 for Bayern in 205 games. He's got 5 and 142 for Madrid. He certainly plays a more conservative role. I mean, there's other goal scorers in the Madrid team, but he certainly plays slightly deeper for Real.
Well, yeah, for quite probably 2 or 3 seasons under, I mean, it was Heinkes and probably the back end of Van Gaal as well. He played sort of in a number 10 role. Yeah. He played in sort of the centre of the 3 rather than in the kind of central midfield that he does.
Madrid already had like Jimmy Rod and Isco, so he didn't really
they've got enough of that.
Necessarily need him there. Interested, by the way, Real Madrid's team that played, no Bale, still pretty good. It doesn't really matter.
There was no Griezmann on the pitch really in this game, was there? As well, it was very quiet.
Yeah, very good. They had one shot, I think, by Guerrero, and that was it.
Simeone after the game was sort of pretty complimentary about Real Madrid. I think he kind of knows
hard not to be, isn't it?
Yeah. But you know, often managers will always sort of come out fighting with the second leg ahead of them, but. It's hard to see how Atletico are going to recover this. And the thing was, you know, as I said at the top of this section, you know, they didn't even sort of threaten at, you know, having a bit of pressure to grab an away goal. And maybe if it was 3-1 with an away goal, you could potentially see them winning 2-0 or something at Real Madrid, at the Calderon and going through. But I think in the same way as the Juventus game, which we'll talk about in a second, this result wrapped up the tie for them. I think it'll be. I mean, we've seen some crazy comebacks this year in the Champions League, but I think for both of these teams, it's a bit of a bridge too far.
Onto Juve then. I really want Juve to win it. For a few years, obviously they got to the final not long ago. I just want them to win the Champions League because there's kind of this idea that if they don't win it, I feel like they're almost going to be a forgotten side within Europe. And it kind of passed a little bit because you think like Pogba left and whatnot, and they've had a few other changes in there. Like Pirlo obviously left as well.
Conte, of course.
Yeah, so that Juve team didn't quite get there. But I just want an Italian team to be on top. It's sentimental reasons, I think. But I would just quite like to see it.
I think Juve's, moving on to this game, they are the most, we're talking about maybe the teams in Europe. I was saying to you, maybe I don't think Real Madrid are the best team in Europe. And if they go on to sort of retain the Champions League, I'd feel as though maybe, the best team of the last 20 years, they're nowhere near that, but they'll have done what none of those teams have managed to do. I think right now Juventus are the best team in Europe. They are the best group of players playing the best sort of football as a whole. And they showed that, I think they've shown that in every game they've played against different types of opposition. That's what's most impressive. You say that, maybe that the first sort of era of the all-conquering Juventus in Serie A, that was obviously Conte's Juventus. They had players like Pogba. Obviously, Pirlo was the linchpin to that, but they've lost quite a few different players as well from that. Players like Tevez, who was in that Champions League final last year. Obviously, Pogba is gone. Arturo Vidal. So there's been quite a regeneration at Juventus under Allegri. But I think that the club as a whole is only still improving, and they are this season. It was almost that Champions League 2 years ago was maybe a little bit too early. This season they are moving into that kind of Real Madrid, Barcelona. Bayern Munich, that super club bracket, they are getting.
I think in the same way that AC Milan had that in the mid 2000s, where you look back at that team now and you go through it and you talk about like Nesta and Stam and Gattuso and Kaká and Pirlo, even on the outside, Shevchenko, Crespo, players like this, Cafu, like players like that, and you start to go through
Alan
this.
Hudson.
Alan Hudson. You start to go through this Premier League team, this Juventus team. I don't know where that came from. This Juventus team with Buffon and Chiellini and Barzagli and Bonucci and Alexandro and Dani Alves is now in that. Pjanic, Marquisio.
More on him in a minute.
And
Dani Alves.
Yeah, and like the front two with having sort of Dybala there, having Mandzukic there, and having Higuain there. Like the fact they can have a system which accommodates all of those players. And to beat a free score, not just to beat a free scoring Monaco team, but to keep a clean sheet against Monaco is like unheard of this year. I think Monaco have scored like nearly 150 goals this season. Like it's outrageous that everyone talks about these Italian defences being impossible to break down, and with Juventus, their back sort of I'd call it more of a back four than I would sort of like a back five with their wing backs. But the Chiellini, Bonucci, Barzagli, Buffon combination is like I think
it will go down. So they've only conceded 2 goals this year in the Champions League in the whole competition, and they're on track, statistically, to go down as the best defence in the Champions League of all time.
Yeah.
And I think, regardless of whether they do that or not, just this kind of 4 players, particularly I think Bonucci, Chiellini and Buffon will go down as sort of an all-time great defence, and it's amazing to watch that. I think it wasn't so much this game because I felt like Juventus dominated this sort of, more specifically on the game, they kind of dominated this from almost the middle and the front. They were the back sort of 5 weren't really forced to defend that much against Monaco, which was strange because it's Monaco, but they dominated in all areas of the pitch to the point where that sort of defence didn't have to have the amazing game that they did at the Camp Nou, for instance, a few weeks ago. And yeah, they'll certainly go down as being one of the best. I think a man in that defence, as I just sort of alluded to, that was man of the match by far for me last night was Dani Alves, who I said it again when I was watching this, surely the signing of the season, if Juventus go on to win the Champions League. He was released from Barcelona.
We spoke about it the other week, we were surprised Guardiola didn't go for him. And, I mean, he's one of these players.
He was free.
Like, he was free, and he seems to have got... It's almost like this is going to sound a bit weird, because I think back to him playing for Barcelona, he had like the freest role in world football. It felt like,
Yeah.
But in this Juventus side, he's proving that he's not just an attacking like warrior. He's actually not bad at the back either. He's still quite a good defender, which is quite nice to see. But the little back heel. Let's talk about the Brazilian bit in him.
One of the goals of the season for me. This was this whole goal.
So there's obviously the move beforehand. Dybala then gives it to Dani Alves, who just runs, which is lovely to see. Lovely back heel, first time him going into the bottom corner, and it's just to have a defence that good and then attacking players that clinical. It must be a delight. It must be such a nice thing to manage as well. Just to go through, I'm going to come to you, Paddy, in a minute and talk about Buffon. So have thoughts on Buffon ready?
The keeper section.
But I'm linking that in by saying that in the last 4 seasons, we'll include this year then, which has been a bit of a poor season for Juve actually. They've conceded 22 in the league this year. Top of the league by 9 points as things currently stand. So 22 this year. Previous year to that, 20 goals conceded in the league all year. 24 the year before that. And the year before that, 23. That is a record that I don't think any other size can match. Especially in Italy. You look at the teams that can, there's the odd time where a team were close, like Roma were close one year, considering how many goals they conceded. But the next highest is Roma this year, and then they've conceded something like 9 more. Juve, it's the best defence I dare say ever. I think you would think about the players and what they're achieving, and that is why I want them to win the Champions League. I want this defence to go down as not just that they've got these great attacking players. I want them to play Real Madrid and Ronaldo, keep a clean sheet and beat them 2-0. Yeah, because it'd just be such a Juventus thing to do. And we've been so close recently. But Buffon, Proudy, I mean, he's about 104 now, and he could be there a while longer. I think his current age, 39. He'll be 40 in January, the next January. Is he the best goalkeeper of all time? Is the question I want to ask you.
No, well, no. He's definitely in my top 5. No, he's in my top 5. Yeah, top 5.
Who's in there? Wait, hang on.
Because you got players like Neuer.
Let me ask you again. Exclude Portsmouth goalkeepers, right? Who's your top 5?
Okay, David James is
take Shaka Hislop out.
He's top 3 now. No, I think Neuer's up there for me in top 5 because he's changed the way that a goalkeeper's seen. A goalkeeper normally was seen as just a player who just saved a shot, and now Neuer's basically he is now another defender. He's just a sweeper.
Redefine the position.
Is this all time or current?
All time. Okay. Then you got Lev Yashin, who was the only goalkeeper to have ever won the golden. No, was it? Yeah, Ballon d'Or.
Ballon d'Or,
yeah, he's only goalkeeper ever.
So with a golden boot, that would have been good, wouldn't it? That would have been impressive.
You got Iker Casillas. He's up there for me as well. So there are a few goals, but Buffon. I generally would love to see him win the Champions League. I think it's the only trophy he's actually
he's never
won.
It's
like Ibra in the Champions League, but I don't really care about Ibrahimovic. Buffon I do care about though. I would love to see Buffon win it because I think he's been in the final 3 times now, and they or twice, and I think they've
twice run up twice.
Yeah. So they lost on penalties. I remember against Milan. And then lost to Barcelona a few years ago.
That shows how long ago it was. That was 2003, that final against Milan.
And they never made
Old Trafford.
Yeah, I think the 2015 final was the next final they made after that. And it's just so I would love to see Buffon win it. And I think it's amazing to see a goalkeeper like him still be playing at the level he is, especially at the team he is as well. Because a lot of managers, especially nowadays, they see a goalkeeper hits 30 and they're like, we'll just get the next one in. Or 32, and for someone like Buffon, and there are a few goalkeepers I think who have come to Juventus who have been highly rated, and they can't displace Buffon, and that shows you how good the goalkeeper was.
Obviously, the talk at the moment is Donnarumma at AC Milan, the next sort of great Italian goalkeeper coming through. Very, very young still. Not even. I think he might have only just turned 18. Donnarumma. He's going to be sitting there at 27, going, he's nearly 50. Can we get him out? I want to get some Italian caps under my belt. He's nearly 50. But Buffon did say after the win against Monaco, my objective is for people to think it's a shame when I retire. That's why I'm still working so hard. Obviously, it helps to play for a team like this because it makes me happy. Yeah. There's nothing better than working with such a positive environment. And that's something every quote from Buffon, he always seems so happy and so humble to be playing football.
Had a great one about Kylian Mbappe before the game, where he said that when Mbappe was born, which is 97, 98, he was just getting ready to go to the World Cup.
98. I love it.
Buffon was in the Italy team, first choice, going to the World Cup.
Yeah.
And Kylian Mbappe handed
Francesco
the ball.
Toldo was going, come on, I can still get a couple. He's going to be here forever. Like, can I not get a few more games under my belt? I wonder how long it'll go. I feel like we should almost do a sweepstake on that. At what point will Buffon retire? I hope he never retires. I hope he's just there forever.
I think if they win the Champions League this year, I think he'll retire on that.
No.
He will. He'll do that thing. He'll want to go out on a high. And it's just
like Philip Lahm with Germany.
Yeah.
Like Wayne Rooney and his Manchester United goal-scoring record.
Who's going to win the Champions League again?
Who says we don't do comedy? There you are then. Right, that'll wrap things up though. Great for win for Juve. A Madrid-Juve final would be the thing of beauty. I think they may well both win their domestic leagues as well.
Monaco have surprised us all this year.
No, but they've not scored, Kino. They've not scored.
I was going to say, I should have said this earlier when you were talking about the stat. Apparently, Barcelona and Monaco together have scored 302 goals and not a single one against Juventus.
Oh, there you are.
There you go. There's a stat for you.
Of course, you shut out Barca as well. Forget that. Come on.
That performance at the Camp Nou, if they win it, will go down.
It wasn't like they just defended either. They actually went to attack as well, but they just couldn't score. And
those who watched my Parma series won't like this on YouTube, but I'm Team Juve for the Champions League this year. I really want them to win it. Desperately want them to win it.
We are not impartial on ForTheFans.
No, we're not this season. I was going to say we'll do a preview to the Premier League this weekend, but we're not going to bother, folks. I hope you don't mind. What we'll do, though, is we'll try and record maybe a little bit earlier next week and talk about some Premier League fixtures, some to look out for then. Arsenal, Manchester United is probably the only one that's really worth talking about, boys. The only one that means something, I dare say.
It's a top
You could do a prediction, a score prediction.
Should we do a quick prediction on Arsenal United then? Kino?
Well, Arsenal definitely won't win.
Okay.
Man United 1-0.
drbenji@gmail.com. Arsenal definitely won't win. Proudy?
0-0.
No deal. I'll go 5-5 at the Emirates.
8-2. 8-2 to Man United.
8-2 Arsenal. Revenge. Let's call it Super Revenge Sunday. Liverpool play Southampton. I think if we win that's Champions League, boys. That's done. That's completed. No questions asked. Hopefully. And that's going to bring us to the end then. ForTheFansShow.com for all available links at ForTheFansShow on Twitter. And of course, YouTube.com/ForTheFansShow. Do leave your ratings and reviews on iTunes. We will read the best ones out at the start of next week's show. And of course, get in touch with us at Dr. Benji at the moment. We need to get a For The Fans based email. I think we do have one actually. ForTheFansShow@gmail.com might work, but I don't know for sure.
Yes. But you've shouted out your email address to the whole show, so we'll stick with that one now and then introduce the other one next week.
But any emails on what Proudy said, or maybe the feature ever that he got at the very start, then I'm happy to hear it.
One of the best features of all time.
I thought the World Cup one was better.
It's not in my. It's in my top 5, Kino. I'll say that much. It's in my top 5, but it doesn't quite break the top 5. Lev Yashin's probably in there at number 3. And that brings us to the end then. Kino, thank you for joining us this week.
Thank you very much.
Proudy, pleasure as always.
Thank you. This time next week, actually, we could be League 2 champions. I just put it out there.
That's enough. From me, Dr. Benji. We'll see you next time. We love with care from us at For The Fans. Goodbye.